Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and series and decide which movie didn't say the magic word. You didn't say the magic word. You didn't say the magic word. I'm your host, Grana, and joining me tonight...
I'm Luke Morgan, and some of the worst things imaginable have been done with the best intentions.
And I'm Dr. Conan. I suffer from a deplorable excess of personality. And podcasters don't want to be fed. They want to hunt. You can't just suppress 65 million years of gut instinct.
Of course, we are doing Jurassic Park. These movies were vital to my childhood. The first movie was vital to my childhood. I love this movie. I remember having puzzles of it. I remember having merch from it. I remember watching... My wife and I watched this movie together, and we're like... When we taped it off the TV on VHS, this is where there was an ad, and this is where there was an ad. We both had a very similar experience in our childhood. It was a great experience for us to watch it again. Boys, what's your experience with Jurassic Park? Luke, you can go first.
I don't have much, but I always had this fear as a child of these movies, and I kind of looked at them as a horror movie. I feel like had seen maybe one or two scenes that my elder brothers were watching it. And I remember, for years and years, the only scene I could remember was Wayne Knight, Newman from Seinfeld, getting sprayed with this black ink and being trapped in the car with the dinosaur killing him. And as a big Seinfeld fan, that terrified me. And I just always had this fear of Newman and dinosaurs spraying black ink on people. And I avoided watching it for the longest time. I feel like I watched the first one a couple of years ago for the first time just sat down and watched it. But then even this time when I watched it, I was like, oh, I didn't know Samuel Jackson's in this. I was like, maybe I didn't watch it fully the last time either. So this was really my first time watching it. Definitely my first time watching 2 and 3. Probably my last time watching 2 and 3. But yeah, it's something I always I don't know, even... Obviously, we've all seen the memes. There's all this iconic stuff that I've always remembered. I've always loved the theme song. I liked Jurassic Park and the idea of it. I just never actually watched it. And I'd watched Jurassic World the second it came out because I was like, oh yeah, Chris Pratt, dinosaurs, this is cool. So
that was a mistake.
Not good.
Yeah, I had a pretty similar experience. This was a big... I think, Grana, you're a bit older than us. Your generation, this was pretty seminal to your upbringing. It's It's early 90s, but it's riding on that phenomenon of 80s into 90s sort of I can't remember, the sort of the new school directors. You got James Cameron, Spielberg started it before that, but his career's gone on forever. And so they're super seminal to your generation, I think. And so my older brothers as well. This is often on in our household, and I remember the scary parts, and I remember not liking that as a kid. So I never saw it. It's been on my list of shame. It's one of the key movies that's been on that list, super important movies that I feel like I know enough about because I've seen all the references and I've seen all the scenes here and there. But I've never sat down and watched it. But I think most of all, I just don't care for dinosaurs. I just never had a dinosaur phase. And so this movie never interested me. I think that was a big part. I never needed to see the dinosaur movie. I never needed to play with dinosaurs. And even now I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but I just don't care about dinosaurs.
My daughter's having a dinosaur phase at the moment, and I'm kind of loving it. She's
already
she just points at dinosaurs and likes playing with dinosaurs all the time. It's fun.
That's cute.
It's fun. Why don't we get more dinosaur movies? Because it is I'm reluctant to call it a genre, but it's a type of movie that we don't see many of. There was that recent movie 65, which looked great in concept and then reviewed terribly, and I never went anywhere near it.
I remember you being very disappointed that they'd spoiled that was dinosaurs.
Yes, it would have been cool to...
Cool twist.
Yes, I think that would have been a cool twist. Anyway.
Yeah.
Are they just too hard to pull off?
You see it. I think you kind of see part of the issue in this trilogy is that the first movie deals with the first one deals kind of with the concept of the dinosaurs are these artifacts that we the artifacts of us playing God. Man plays God. Man tries to recreate something that they don't understand, something that is completely so ancient and almost mythological that when it's created, it's it's unleashing Pandora's box and it's destructive. And like that's something interesting about dinosaurs. We sort of know what they are, but we don't really. Like even the skeletons you see are mostly plastic, and they're like, this is what we had a shard of bone and we've analyzed it, and this is what we assume it looks like, and they do that. So there is this sense of like, we know that dinosaurs existed, but we really don't know too much about them. And so there's a sense of, they're almost half history, half myth. But then the other two films are kind of just like monster movies, right? They just kind of become, the dinosaurs are the same as Godzilla or King Kong.
Yeah.
And they kind of, those are the only two things you can, not maybe they're not, but those are the two natural paths for a dinosaur movie. I think there are these giant monsters that crush everything and, someone has to kill, or they're this relic for study. And I honestly, part of this, people don't want to take on Spielberg either. Like, why haven't we seen another E.T. sort of film? Because everyone knows they're not going to do it better.
Because that's the thing. How do you do a dinosaur film where you deal with humans and dinosaurs interacting? Like, because you're not going back in time and just watching dinosaurs interact with each other. You obviously have to bring them to modern times almost. Yeah. How do you do that and not feel like Jurassic Park and doing what they did in a way? And the only other way to do it would be dinosaurs interacting, and nobody's toppling Land Before Time either. So
that's also true. Yeah.
True. I guess they really are a relic of their time, and bringing them to the present is Jurassic Park. You're just copying that. I mean, I think 65 is an interesting concept that.
Yeah. Someone going back.
I wish it worked probably better. I mean, maybe I should watch that movie before I pass my judgment, but nothing I've heard makes me want to rush out and see it now. But
yeah.
I think the dinosaurs can work in a horror context, because the other movie that I thought of that does it pretty well is it Kong Skull Island?
Yeah.
It's got a decent amount of dinosaurs in it, and it's a pretty decent movie.
I agree. But that is also like half monster film, half half Vietnam War film.
Yep.
And I think we're all fans of that movie, aren't we?
I love that movie. So
I think it's really I think it's underrated, but I don't think most people like that, unfortunately. But I think part of it's also just the CG of it. Like, we didn't really get it until this was in 93, the original Jurassic Park, and so CG was starting to come into its own. And you see in this movie, there's a lot of like, it's that good combination of practical effects with CG. So for the most of it, looks pretty seamless. But I guess we had to wait a long time to get that. It's just expensive. Like, Jurassic World cost probably $1 billion, and I guess when you just have that much money,
it also did make a lot of money too.
Yeah.
So I guess,
But I guess that's the thing. When you've got that, like when you're going to spend money to make dinosaurs, you sort of need, it's that classic box office thing. You need to do a certain type of movie to sell it, because if you spend $100 million in this small indie, meditation on the dinosaurs, it's just not going to.
Yeah,
I still don't know if it's going to sell.
I'm not sure I understand what a small scale dinosaur movie is. Like, I don't know how do you even make that work conceptually from a budgetary point of view. Like, it just doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't make a lot of sense. It needs to be big and it needs to be epic, and as a result, it needs to be expensive.
Yeah,
and the only way they're going to spend money on that if it's another sequel to Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, I guess.
Yeah. Like, there is a real like Spielberg curse in a lot of ways, and once he touches something, he makes it so great that it kind of becomes impossible to ever. Like, Jaws is the exception, but no shark film has ever been close to being as good as Jaws. But he generally, when he makes
feel like imitations of Jaws,
exactly right. And so I think by having the first sort of big dinosaur film be a Spielberg film, it's like, That's it. We're never going to do that again.
Pack it up, boys.
All right, let's kick it off with some stats.
Stats.
Pretty big stats on these movies. Jurassic Park 1, $63 million budget, which feels like minuscule, but I'd love to know what that is adjusted for inflation. I'm sure it's nearly $1 billion. No, but I'm sure it's expensive. The box office, $1.1 billion it made. Jurassic Park 2, $73 million budget, made $618 million. $1.1 billion. It's a big. It was. Well, wait, I remember it being the biggest movie at the time.
That's insane.
Is that over its lifespan, or is that just?
Yeah, I mean, look, that was the worldwide statistics according to IMDb. I didn't go deep in on, its box office over time, but the worldwide gross is $1.1 billion.
That's still pretty good. A quick Google search shows $1 million in 1993 is worth about $2 million now. So if the budget was $65 million,
125 million then.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, but still, $1 billion. That's an amazing return.
It's a big return. Lost World, $73 million budget, $618 million box office. And Jurassic Park 3, $93 million budget and $368 million box office.
Yeah.
People change the channel.
That's still
good.
Still a return.
People still turn down. Yeah.
I mean, with Hollywood accounting, it probably is a loss, but the Metacritic scores are surprisingly low, 68 for Jurassic Park 1. I think that is utterly criminal. 59 for Jurassic Park 2. That is also criminal in a different direction. And Jurassic Park 3, 42 on Metacritic. Also, not what I was expecting, but I guess we'll get into it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those... I was surprised to see this, that the first one was so... I mean, it's not low rated. You know, it's still 68 is still good, but yeah, it's definitely not like the 90s, the 80s or 90s I was expecting.
I mean, it's an 8.2 on IMDb. Like the user scores, that's pretty high.
Rotten Tomatoes has the first one as 91%, number 2 at 54%, and number 3 at 49%.
Okay, so similar except for the first one, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure why. Like you see this sometimes, right? Classics just aren't appreciated in the time. I'm not sure why people didn't. I don't know. I don't know why people didn't like it at the time. I'm not really sure what the reason for that would be, right?
I mean, it could just be the quality of the movies. It's good. Oh, you mean why the first one?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No. Yeah.
I thought you meant why people stopped going to watch the second and third one.
Oh no. That's easy to say. No, I mean, like I think it's well known that this is a bona fide top 10 classic of all time. Like everyone knows what this. This is one of the prime example, like relics of the culture at the time.
Let me read you some reviews from Metacritic just for fun. From the Los Angeles Times. When the big guys leave the screen, you'll be tempted to leave the theater with them. I guess he's saying the dinosaurs were the only interesting part of that movie. The Globe and Mail from Toronto. Perfectly passable kiddie escapism. It has a thrill or two and a chill or three, but it has no sense of poetry, little sense of wonder, no resonant subtext. This all sounds super wanky and like, I don't know, Ebert gave it a 75.
My man. Little sense of wonder, that's a weird criticism.
It is a very strange criticism, yes.
Yeah.
Not sure I can agree with those review scores.
Well, yeah, the other two, though.
Yeah, let's get into it, I guess. Jurassic Park, 1993. A pragmatic paleontologist touring an almost complete theme park on an island in Central America is tasked with protecting a couple of kids after a power failure causes the park's cloned dinosaurs to run loose. This sounds very similar to a screenplay I once wrote called Billy and the Clonosaurus. I don't know if he copied my idea. But...
What were you thinking?
I mean, these movies really did permeate the culture, in my opinion. Like, there's so many references to it in The Simpsons. There's so many memes from this that still go around. Like, I don't know if you guys. I love the GIF of Sam Neill on. I'm forgetting everybody's names. Sam Neill on Jeff Goldblum's chest doing the
Triceratops.
The Triceratops breathing.
That's the thumbnail for this podcast.
Yes,
that's
it should
what
be.
I've already made the thumbnail for it.
It's a great image.
I was going to surprise you.
That's a good one. Jeff Goldblum, sexy injured is like a
classic.
Really got like a resurgence when Ragnarok came out and Jeff Goldblum became like relevant to this generation again. Everyone's like, remember sexy Jeff Goldblum?
Yep. One of my favorite subreddits is It's a Unix System, which is just making fun of bad computer systems in TV and movies, like that don't make any sense in real life.
Yep.
At the end, when she's flying around the 3D space to look for files, utterly ridiculous.
Yeah. Yep. Clever girl's a good response to things. Bob texts a little comment.
Shoot her!
Well,
he's
even
the best part of this movie. I love him so much.
He is real good. Even just like, I was just looking at the trivia here, like the movie and the book, because Michael Crichton was a pretty big name. And the book was really, really big coming into it, did really, really well. The screenplay was optioned almost, I think even before it was released. It was one of those cases where like, it had so much prep and so much attention before it was even released that people were wanting to see the movie of it. But like both the book and the movie increased, like paleontology numbers increased, like people got really interested. It's like the Top Gun effect.
Yeah.
Numbers shot up after this. Everyone started looking at dinosaurs, which is pretty telling, right? That the movie was relevant and the movie was just everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, Luke, you said this is the first time you properly saw this, right?
Yes.
I guess, what did you think?
I really enjoyed the first one. That's the thing. I think it holds up surprisingly well. And then even especially after watching 2 and 3, I was like, man, the first one held up better. But like, I don't know, there's something still to it. Like all the scenes, like I know obviously I've seen scenes before of this sort of thing, but like, when they first see the dinosaurs in the field and like the awe moment that they have, staring at that, it still feels cool. It doesn't feel like, oh my God, look how bad the CGI is. Like it's obviously not great and not believable in our today's world looking at it, but I can still watch it and believe in that scene and like believe their awe, and I don't know, I still find like the raptor scene scary. I still found like the dinosaur stalking Newman scary. I don't know if it was just childhood trauma, but like I found that scary as well. The rain, it's lightning. But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this. The performances are great. Like I don't know how they didn't retain both Goldblum and Sam Neill for like the second and third one, as in at the same time, sort of thing. Like I don't know. I really like the characters, but
it's interesting. So the second movie is also based on a Michael Crichton book, and I believe Sam Neill's just not in the book.
Okay.
So like his character's just not in the book, so he's just not in the movie.
So what's interesting?
It's a shame, but
what's super interesting, like that book was written basically to sell for a movie. Like they needed to make a sequel, so they're like, we need a movie for this. So Michael Crichton churned it out really quickly. Like didn't sort of put the love or the care, just needed a sequel. That's why it's a bit, you could argue it's a much weaker concept. It's like we need you to make a book so we can make a screenplay so we can then make a movie of it. And I think that speaks a lot to the lacking quality in it.
Yeah.
And so I think from my brief research, what I saw was like there was a sort of this sense of like the movie was kind of being made almost in tandem, and I don't know if they could get Sam Neill back for it. And so that's why I think that Alan Grant was actually written out of the book for that exact reason. But I could be wrong. I didn't.
Wow, that's just like they did not go about that the right way. I don't feel like it's.
Yeah, it was just one of those weird instances of like you need to. It's like the Hannibal, where like he wrote the third book of that because like we need to write this to make a movie to make this, and that's why it was a crap film.
Yeah.
It's weird though to see then Sam Neill come back in number 3.
Yeah.
Like what's going on?
Goldblum.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I don't know, but yeah, like I don't know the whole cast. Laura Dern is great. Colonel Sanders, like who I swear my brothers had convinced me Colonel Sanders had created dinosaurs and was in this movie, and I just believe it.
It's not chicken you're eating.
No. Oh man, imagine. There should have been marketing deals around that. They should have done an ad about that. But
like giant chicken wings, it's like pterodactyl wings or something. Yeah. That's a cool idea.
They probably did. There was so much merchandising
probably
and tie-ins with this movie.
The good old days of the early 90s.
Yeah. Spielberg's just the king of that stuff, like the king of that sort of iconography. And it's like you can just tell this. It's like you could just make anything, right? You could make a T-Rex and just sell it and be like, this is a $30 Jurassic Park T-Rex, and people be like, it's from that movie. Like,
yeah, he's a Jeep that's painted in the Jurassic Park colors.
Yes,
like all that stuff feels very merchandisable. Yeah,
and like that symbol, just like the gates, the like the cover, the red background with the black silhouette. Like they're on T-shirts, iconic. they're on everything, right? Like it is so iconic. You can't escape it. It's like,
and that's the thing. Like watching this, like I've heard for years, like Conan. I know you're a big Spielberg fan, and watching this, like. I was like, no, Conan's right. Like, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
I'm not a Spielberg hater. Look, I'm not a Spielberg hater. I think he is somewhat overrated. We've talked about this on a different podcast, and we're going to discuss it in the second movie, okay? I actually have pretty much nothing but praise for him in this movie because this is kind of an exemplar of what he's good at. Like, technically speaking, this movie is pretty astounding. Just like I say, this scene of like when you first see the dinosaurs and you got John Williams' score playing, and it's just like this.
John
It's like
Williams.
it's honestly like this is cinema. You're like, holy crap, everything
Yeah.
is working. And
Who
it's
isn't feeling something during that scene, right? Like,
exactly. And
you're
like
dead
I
if you
said,
don't.
yeah, I don't care for dinosaurs, but seeing like just the way it's framed, like the way everything is blocked and framed, you can see like you're looking down from their perspective, and there's just these enormous like dinosaurs in the background in this beautiful setting with this amazing.
Majestic.
It is.
Feels
It's
majestic.
and it's truly like, oh, this is how you make this. This is how movies work, and that's
Yeah.
that's what Spielberg does really well. Like he doesn't do things overly fancy. He just like this is a practical way of making something, and I know exactly how to make you feel something. I know how the world should exist cinematically, and like I think everything like the water scene, which the water cup
Yep.
when the T Rex, that's probably like the most well known scene from the movie, I'd say. And you're like 2 Point Grey, the amount of things that reference that, right? Just
Yeah.
anytime there's anything coming, like a lot of fat jokes got made in films from the 90s and 2000s with that
True.
scene.
Yep.
And things like that right there, it's like that's genius. That's an ingenious way of showing something and building tension. And it's like, yeah, when they're going through the park and they're like, this is the raptor. It spits venom onto people's faces to blind them. And it's like, oh, okay. And then we see that all play out later. We see that happen. We see the raptors. So we like it's cause and effect. It's that foreshadowing. Like he's just a G.
The raptors hunt in packs. You know, you'll see one ahead of you, but the one beside you is going to be the one that gets you, and that's exactly what happens. That guy. Yeah.
Great.
I kind of agree with you about Spielberg. Like it's easy to feel like he's almost the default director in some ways. Like he's the default for decent cinema. But I think this movie like is elevated. It's higher than that. It's better than that. It's not default cinema. It does like I would love to maybe see this movie in the hands of another director that's maybe better. Like I think that there's probably interesting things there that could happen. But you're right. Like the second movie, very very meh, like super meh at best.
So,
at best.
Yeah, and like they're a fascinating case study, I think.
Yeah. So you enjoyed this movie, Conan, because this is the first time you've properly watched it?
Yeah, like I did. It was one of those things I came into this thinking, okay, this is a 5-star film. I'm expecting to be blown away and be like, wow, where have you been all my life? I already pre-ordered a bunch of dinosaurs that were coming out. I bought some stock in a cloning facility in case. And I wasn't, at the end of it, I wasn't like best film ever, but I was like, I can see why I respect it. I do have an emotional distance from it, I think, purely because it's like I don't have that nostalgic connection.
Yeah.
Too much of the movie is already known to me through pop culture and everything. And so I'm like, yeah, I kind of know what's going on. Like I was surprised at parts. Like the whole Newman espionage subplot is really like I just didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah, no, neither.
But do you I don't know. That's another meme that goes around all the time. Him at the beach and he's saying, "Nobody cares. Nobody cares that you're here talking to me." Like that.
You're right. I knew that scene, but I was always like, I remember whenever I looked at it,
know the context.
I was like, why is this in? How does this work in this movie?
Yeah.
And now I know. I'm like. So there's all this stuff that I didn't know, sort of how the mechanics of the movie worked, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really admirable. It is really, I did enjoy it, definitely. And like the T-Rex attack is really tense, and there's a lot of really scary parts in this. And
like, T-Rex scene holds up in the rain.
It does.
Like it looks good, I feel like.
I think this is a really good like study of how to use CGI because we get it in like the big long shots where you're not looking at fine little details, and then it's like dark and stormy, and we're seeing glimpses of the T-Rex running after them. Yep. And there's a lot of puppetry involved in those scenes too. But when it's like purely running after them, that's going to be CGI. But it works really well in that scene because it's dark and it's stormy.
Yes.
It's just but the use of practical effects really is they're so good in this movie. Like,
it's one of those great examples of like sort of less is more, and like restraint, not yielding. What's the word? Restraint creating like the best option. Like you can tell they're like, okay, we can't show the dinosaurs everywhere, so how do we do it? We have a scene where we see the water jiggle, and so we know that something big's coming. And it's like that's it. That's the best way you could have did this. And
let's lower the cow down into the cage, and then just show the harness all ripped up. We don't need to see them tearing it up.
Yeah, exactly. It works so much more. It's it's like it's pretty remarkable. Gerardo, like this is like a 10 out of 10 for you movie. Is this like one of your all-time greats?
It's not there's other movies that I would probably rather go back and watch. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. It is a movie that I watched when I was pretty young. and it had a big impact on me. Like I was really into dinosaurs at the time, and I was really into dinosaurs after that. Like I said, I remember getting merch for it. I remember
you were the dinosaur kid.
Yeah, I was in a lot of ways. Like I remember watching this movie on VHS till I wore it out.
Damn. Yeah, okay.
And yeah, like it's just lots of those scenes we would just quote all the time, like clever girl, shoot her. I mean, especially his lines, I guess. But
Everything Bob Peck, yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like? What were your parents thinking when they showed this? So I was wondering watching this because like there's a lot of scary stuff, right? And like this is a family friendly film, quote unquote. There is like it was essentially made for family entertainment, but there's a lot of like really scary stuff, like a surprising amount of violence.
Yeah, there is. I think like they do undercut a lot of it in cases. Like there's that really tense scene with the T-Rex like knocking over the cars trying to get to the kids when they got the torch on and stuff like that. And then it goes and eats the guy on the toilet.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
And it kind of undercuts the tension. It kind of undercuts the horror. But I do remember being really scared of like the kitchen scene with the raptors.
Yeah, that's such a good part.
It's such a good scene. Again, parodied all hell, but just I don't know. I don't remember being that scared of it as a kid, and I was a kid that got scared really easy. I'm not sure what it was about this movie, but it wasn't. It didn't haunt me like other movies did. Like if this movie had been about aliens, I wouldn't have been able to sleep at night. But I don't know, for some reason it just worked. And I like kids my age loved this movie. Like I knew lots of people who'd watched this movie and loved it. So
that's what I mean. That's what surprised me about it. Like everyone watched this when they were kids when it came out. Everyone loves it who saw it when they were young. And then, like this happens in a lot of the sort of 80s family films. Like, they're just a lot. You could just do more. You could show more violence. They're a bit more adult and scary.
Yeah. I feel like I saw a lot of beheadings in those movies. I'm not sure why.
They probably shouldn't have.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things that but no one was like, oh, I was terrified of Jurassic Park. Everyone's like, no, I love that movie. And I was kind of surprised. I'm like, and I'm trying to figure out why. Like, do you reckon it's the marriage of Spielberg's like innocence with it, or?
I think he does. I think he has a way of doing that because you don't directly see a lot of people die either. Like again, there's the lawyer on the toilet, which is kind of hilarious in context. Yep. I don't think you ever see the raptors actually tear anyone apart.
No, the car shakes with Newman as well.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
the death of Newman's basically off screen. Samuel L. Jackson's like they find his bloody arm, but they don't see him get killed.
Yes, yeah.
You don't see the hunt. You don't actually see the hunter die. He's just like clever girl, and then he's dead.
Yeah,
and like the kids survive. Most of the main characters survive, and they're able to outsmart the dinosaurs.
Yeah,
I think it's like it is scary, but I think they do. There is an innocence there. You're right. Like there's almost a PG-13ness to it in some ways, even though it feels more violent than that.
Yeah, I guess it feels more violent than it is, which I guess is the testament, right? That it's pretty hard to do that, so you need a good filmmaker who can achieve that.
Yeah.
Luke, would you show this to your kids at 5?
I did.
You did?
I did. My son was like, "This is scary," and I was like, "No, watch it." And I was like, "You'll like it."
No, you'll enjoy Jurassic Park.
I was like, "Watch this scene. This one spits venom. Watch this." I'm like,
that's going to happen to you if you're not a good boy.
Yeah. He wasn't a big fan of it, and he was a dinosaur fan when he was younger. My daughter really loved it. So that's the way it goes, and she really enjoyed it. I didn't put them through 2 and 3, so they just have that happy memory of the first one. So yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Do they want to watch Jurassic World now?
That's what I'm gonna tell them. Like whenever we do that trilogy, I'm gonna tell them. I'm like, now it's Star-Lord is fighting the dinosaurs. Let's go.
Samuel L. Jackson's ability to talk with a cigarette in his mouth is something to be lauded. Like it's I really like his character in this movie. Like he's very nonchalant about a lot of things, but just sitting there smoking constantly, it's great.
Yeah, he's super cool. Yeah, I didn't realize he was in this either.
Yeah,
he's a great addition. Like a lot more quirky characters than I sort of expected. Like Samuel L. Jackson, he's not like crazy weird, but he's just like you say, he's a nice sort of offset. Newman is obviously this weird, like you see him, he's just like, I'm underappreciated. No one like in my life, no one loves me, and he's just such an asshat.
Yeah.
Yeah. He plays
And
it
obviously,
perfectly.
he does. And then obviously Goldblum's the big one, right? He's this very strange, like eclectic mathematician, like chaos mathematician.
Like I don't understand why he's there. Really, like it doesn't really make sense to have him on the island. But I'm glad he is. I'm glad he's there to flirt with Sadler. Like, yeah, it's great.
It's her.
Oh, it caught me by surprise, like just knowing Goldblum and everything, that he's kind of like the reasonable one, where he's like actually telling him like, this is a bad idea. Like, what are you doing? Like, you shouldn't be doing this. You'd think it'd be the opposite way, sort of thing. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed his character, and he's dynamic with Sam Neill, like their banter and stuff like that. So
that's the thing, they've got that. There's that great trope you see sometimes of like, 2 or 3 characters who they're all sort of they've got the same macro goal, but they're also like antagonistic to each other, and they all sort of like, so they're not friends as much as they are like, we've reluctant friends. We've got to get this together, and that's what they have. Like Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum are like, we don't really like each other, but we're both sort of intrigued, and we're both stuck here with this crazy rich man. And yeah, you're right. It just makes all their interactions a lot more fun.
It feels like a rivalry in a lot of ways. Like, it's
fun. Yeah. Throw Laura Dern in the middle. It's kind of this.
Yep.
This like sort of subtextual conflict. It's really good.
Yep.
And obviously, Richard Attenborough is really good.
He is.
Yeah.
It's very good casting.
Yeah. I say, really got a real Colonel Sanders vibe to it. Just pretty good.
Yeah.
There's the weird cartoon they watched, like the long cartoon.
I was actually just going to say how good that cartoon is. Like it's a real info dump in that moment, but in context, it fits so well with that theme park ride and everything else.
It's 100% what we would see in like high school.
Exactly. Like I feel like it fits in that scene really well, and it just explains the hell out of how they have dinosaurs in 1993. Like it makes. Oh, of course they got the DNA out of amber. Why not?
I believe it. I'm
like, so do I. Like, why aren't we doing this?
I don't know how it ever works.
We need to find a mosquito.
Yes, we just need BD Wong and some amber, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
BD Wong's good. I like BD Wong. He's a nice addition.
But he hasn't aged between that and World.
That's right. He comes back in World, and he looks like he's the same age.
He's the same.
All right. Anything else you want to mention about the good one?
No.
It's really good. I like that's the thing. This we touched on it earlier, but the score's classic, and like hearing it again as the gates open, and it's just I don't know.
Yeah, that helicopter landing and the gates opening, and them driving. It's just so good.
Yeah, but actually, touching on like my kids liking it, Noel, like my son knew all of it already because he'd played Lego Jurassic Park in the video game. So he basically knew everything that was going to happen as it was coming. He's like, I know what happens here, Dad. I was like, okay. It's different in the Lego version, but yeah.
People just break into a million pieces in that version.
Yeah, it's much more violent.
All right, Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World. A research team is sent to the Jurassic Park Site B Island to study the dinosaurs there, while an InGen team approaches with another agenda. Sorry, I got confused because the IMDb picture has Sam Neill in it. I don't know why.
Yeah. I don't like the title of this, The Lost World: Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
it's all backwards.
Terrible.
It's all backwards.
It's backwards. This movie just super does not click with me, and seeing the ratings, like this one being higher than number 3 even made me feel like, am I the only one that really hates this movie, or is it just bad?
From the get-go, this feels so like, and Conan talking about the whole thing with the book earlier, like made it clear for me, but like, I don't know, it just seems so like we're going back, we need to go back, and you're going to be stuck in this thing. Even like Colonel Sanders, like for him to just be, it feels unnatural for his character. I feel like after the end of the first one to just be like, no, it's going to work this time. Like it's all good now.
Yeah.
Like go back.
So is this the one where he's dying, or is that the third one?
He doesn't show up in the third one at all, and it's
implied
in this one that he's reaching the end of his life.
Goldblum's tricked because his girlfriend's there, and it's just
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's got that. Yeah, because he goes and sees him in the hospital, like in his mansion hospital.
Yeah, Yeah.
and InGen has been taken over by whoever else is taking over it.
That's right.
Which, yeah, the whole conceit of like, oh, there's a whole other island where we were breeding dinosaurs this whole time. It's like, what? Why did you need? Why did you need this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it reeks of just like that. There was
Sequel.
Someone returns, or it's just like, oh, we had a secret backup in case. It's like, oh, really?
We were building another Death Star.
Like, somehow the T-Rex returned. Like, it's just
Yeah. No, this movie is a mess. It's crap. It's not good at all. I was expecting it to be, like a sort of a lesser version of the first, and it's just not. It's like,
and on paper, like I know you said why it doesn't work, but it's still written by Michael Crichton, still directed by Steven Spielberg. In theory, it should be right.
Yeah,
just and a decent sequel, but
it has no wonder to it. It has no
no.
or has no like nothing. That's the thing. And Karen touched on it earlier. It feels like a monster movie. So it doesn't feel like, oh wow, look at these dinosaurs again or anything like that. And I don't know. Part of that is Sam Neill not being there, and he's the person that has this like thing for them. But growing up, what was your feeling on watching this? Like, were you excited when this was coming out?
So no, like I don't remember seeing it as a kid at all. I probably did once, like I probably rented it from the video shop or something. I remember watching it with my wife because she likes to watch these as a trilogy, and I don't know why. But we watched them together, and I'm like, these other two movies suck. Like, why do you do this to yourself? Just watch the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's completionist.
Okay. Yep.
I guess so.
Yeah, I wonder.
It didn't click with me. Like,
yeah.
Because this is the one with Peter Stormare in it, isn't it? I like Peter Stormare. Oh, and
there's Peter Stormare, Pete Postlethwaite, like, still good cast.
Because then obviously it goes in the different direction where it's like, okay, now we've got commandos on here, and it's all basically like let's gun them down and hunt them down.
Yeah.
All this sort of stuff. It changes the whole vibe of the movie, but it just, I don't know, it just feels, I don't know. It just feels, it's a hard movie to talk about. It feels weird to me. It just feels like nothing.
The thing that doesn't work for me is it's a lot more CGI based. So the CGI is not much better than it was in 1993. It doesn't feel like, so it's not like it's at the level it needs to be to hold up.
But they think it is. That's the problem.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
and I feel like a lot of the what am I trying to say? Like a lot of the big moments aren't dinosaur based. Like there's that big set piece where they're what is it? It's a big trailer or whatever is falling off the cliff.
Yeah, that's the central part. Yeah.
That's caused by dinosaurs, but then the dinosaurs piss off, and it's just them like trying not to fall out of this car that's falling up, like this trailer that's falling off the edge of a cliff. It's just really like compare that to the scene with the T-Rex in the first movie. It's just totally backwards.
I mean, it's basically the same scene. Like
it's similar, but the dinosaur then pisses off and doesn't do anything.
Yeah, like it's essentially the same thing, but they've got none of the sort of none of the wonder. Doesn't include the dinosaur. There's a lot more just like character banter. I don't know. It's this whole it feels like a sum of all its parts. Like every sort of choice it makes is the wrong choice. And I was thinking about, like, Spielberg has made sequels before. Like, obviously, he made the 4 Indiana Jones films. And he did, there's one other sequel that he did that I'm forgetting.
E.T. 2.
No. Oh, maybe it's Jurassic Park.
E2.
I don't know. But E2, number 2. Like, but he's not a huge sequel guy. Everything else is sort of original. This movie really feels like he's kind of playing at, like, what this feels like to me is he's come back and he's like, okay, what do people come to me for? And I think he's at a weird point in his career. He's post the 80s where he's done like that, nostalgic 80s wonder. He's post his gritty 70s. He's entering this stage where he's a bit more experimental. He doesn't really know what to do. And I think he's trying to sort of he's trying to make a Spielberg film, but it's like when he's trying to make a stripped down, or like he's like, okay, I'm going to make this. And when you try to make something like that, rather than try to make the best movie you can, it never goes right. Any time a director's been like, I wanted to make a X film, it's never that good. It's always like, it feels weak, and if you can see the effort, and you can see kind of that you would. Whereas the first one feels like he's like, I'm trying to make the best movie I can.
Yeah.
Whereas I think this one feels really intentional, and it's trying to hit all these marks, and it never works. It's like, hey, it's a poor monster flick. There is no story to this. Like this. What is the story? It's like, I got to go and
escape
rescue
the
my
island. Like,
yeah, like, I've got to
rescue my girlfriend, then escape. Yeah,
but she's like, I don't want to be rescued. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that was awkward.
Also, don't believe their relationship for a second.
Not at all. it introduces all these bad characters like
Vince
Vaughn's pretty bad in, but I really like Vince Vaughn. Goldblum's daughter is awful.
Yeah, that gymnastics scene.
Oh my god,
it's so bad. She does a little flip to kick the raptor out the window. It's shocking.
It's awful. Like, all the tension's gone. It's got Jack Sparrow syndrome, where Goldblum is Goldblum's not a leading man.
Yeah, right. 100%.
His character's not a leading man.
Yep.
And like, they really need Alan Grant. They really need Sam Neill there to just be like say, so that voice for the audience, be like, oh, here's my knowledge of dinosaurs, and I'm also like a bit more of a stoic outsider. He's not great as like an action hero. And then the whole last section where it's like the T-Rex is in San Diego is the stupidest crap I've ever seen.
Oh man,
very unnecessary.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I was like, because I felt like this movie just dragged on.
Yes.
It's 2 hours, but it felt like 3.
I really struggled to stay awake during this movie. I've got to be honest.
And like, I honestly felt like that scene of like the van hanging over the thing. I felt like that went for 25 minutes. Where every time they'd fall down the rope again, I'd be like, no, I'd be like, just climb. I was getting annoyed with it. It's like playing Uncharted, and like things just kept breaking and then falling. I'm like, oh my god. And then when it came to the end and it gets off the boat and like goes to the city, I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, this is where it's going to go to credits. And it's like, oh my God, the dinosaurs in our world. And then it didn't. And then it went for like another half hour. I was like, what? I was like, oh my God, this is now just still going. But
it just, it doesn't end. I can't remember if it was a direct quote I saw or if it was someone's talking about it, but they're saying how like Spielberg essentially was like, I want to make a monster film. And that's why that whole last half hour feels just like a King Kong. It's a King Kong ripoff, right? Like, they bring the animal to the city. They're like, we'll be able to tame this beast. And sure enough, it gets out and it starts. It's like, and so it really feels like that's what he wants to make. The whole movie is, I just want to do that scene. Yeah. He's like, I don't really know what to do, but I'll make it and just get there.
Yeah.
It's a bad choice.
The T-Rex like no longer acts like a T-Rex. It's eating dogs, but then leaving people in the house. Who are scared, like just
staring them down.
It's just really stupid. It doesn't. It's so out of place. The raptors in this movie don't feel like the raptors in the first movie. Like, there's no sign that they're clever. They're not hunting you. They're just trying to viciously claw their way under a door. Or do you know what I mean? Like, it's never that they're stalking you or whatever. Like we get in the first movie, which is so much more interesting.
This is what I was saying before. Like, there's no intelligence to it. Like, they're just animals, and this becomes a theme in the third one as well. Like, they're not, because the first one really talks about how, like, Sam Neill's whole thing is he's like, the raptors are smarter than we thought. They hunt in packs. He's like, these creatures are all really, really intelligent. We don't really understand them, and that's why the whole thing is like, they try to tame them and it goes wrong. Whereas in this, they are just monsters. They are just like animals.
Yeah.
Like I said, the raptors are everything's just trying to kill everybody, but the T-Rex is a bit weirder and. Yeah, there's kind of no intelligence to them, and so it removes any sort of interesting dynamic between it's just people trying to survive.
Yeah.
And so you're like, obviously I want to see them kill these bad monsters. Whereas in the first one, that wonder of these dinosaurs really does feed into the whole, like, they're more majestic than we realized. And then killing. And that kind of feels not right, but it's like, they're killing machines. They're like ultimate ape, like predators. We should have known this. It's our own fault. Whereas this one, it's just like, raptors are just killing everybody. It's okay to kill them. It just feels, it cheapens them a lot.
Yeah.
And it makes me mad.
It's upsetting. It really is upsetting.
Yes.
All right. Do we move on? Do we get away from this? Do you want to say any more about how bad Spielberg is now?
I just remember. I was like, wait, Spielberg. No, look. This speaks to a few points. Number one, it speaks to the fact that he is somewhat of I don't know if an overrated director is right. I was thinking about same as James Cameron, right? James Cameron is a really great director, but he's made some garbage.
Name one garbage film.
Avatar 2. Get out.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here.
Like, he's not untouchable, but
is there any untouchable director though? It would be my argument.
Probably not.
Nolan.
David
I don't
Fincher.
I love Fincher, but I don't think all his movies are perfect.
Name a bad one.
Oh, I'm trying to think of a bad one. Benjamin
Peter
Button.
That's maybe his best. Screw you.
Nah, you stop with that nonsense. Get out of here with that nonsense.
That movie's awesome. Look, you're probably right. And so I am cautious to be like, he's bad because he made one bad film, but he's made a lot of misses. He's had an incredibly prolific career.
Yep.
So it's hard to be like, out of 100, how many has he directed here? He's directed 60 things. Out of all of those, it's like, if you have 20 misses, that's still a, better than 50% hit rate. I just think this is a good example where it's like, he's not untouchable. And this is the movie that's like, there has no DNA or soul or essence into it. Yes. And what irks me about Spielberg is that everyone's like, he's an auteur, and he's not a friggin' auteur, okay? You watch this movie and you're like, what am I watching? It's just a bad mess of bad choices. There's Villain View. Huh?
Villain View.
Perfect. Denis Villeneuve. Perfect filmography. You're right. Sure. 100%.
Okay, I will give you that. Yep.
And so I just think this is number 2 really speaks to like, wow, this guy he's kind of like a savant. He is like genius level at some points, but then when he sort of goes wrong on this, it just really goes off the rails. And like, I don't know, Lost World there's very little good about it.
Yeah.
And then like, how does this guy who's considered one of the best, if not the best director to ever exist, how did he make this movie? Like, we need to engage with that when we talk about it.
It wasn't a passion project at all.
No, this movie is soulless.
I'm contracted to do another one to make money.
Yes, you're right. Now, look, I don't hate Steven Spielberg. I just think everyone needs to calm down when they're like, how good Steven Spielberg. Let's just chill out a little bit.
Fair.
We need to talk more about David Fincher in all situations.
He needs to make a trilogy.
He does.
Jurassic Park 3. A decidedly odd couple with ulterior motives convinced Dr. Grant to go to Isla Sorna for a holiday. But their unexpected landing startles the island's new inhabitants. I don't think a holiday was the reason they were going, but...
No, that's not the thing.
Strange. Look, this movie's not as good as number 1, obviously, but I think it's a better movie than number 2.
I agree 100%.
So do I.
Thank goodness.
I'm really surprised. I thought I was going to be alone in this.
No, because I had this argument with my wife.
I was like, oh no, I think I'd like 3 more.
My wife and I argued about this because we were talking about it before we watched them, and then after we watched them, she's like, I think you're right. I'm like, damn right, I'm right.
Wow. Yeah. You go.
It feels more... It still feels a bit monsterish, but it doesn't feel as monsterish. It feels different. I don't know. I quite liked the whole birdcage aspect of the final act, this like discovery, and it felt kind of otherworldly. This like thing of like, oh my god, we're in this cage, and this all this stuff is like actual bird droppings for like, pterodactyls and stuff like that, and it's like, and I don't know. Sam Neill is way more of a leading man than Jeff Goldblum, and he helps his movies.
He carries this movie quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, he's pretty necessary. Yeah, you're right. Like, this is still a monster movie at the end of it. Like, the whole thing is about, like they're animals. Again, it's like they're animals and they're trying to be exploited, but they shouldn't be. But it kind of combines that with that old sort of wonder, like that pterodactyl scene where it's like they're in this enormous, it's so foggy in there you can barely see past the bridge. It's like this doesn't feel real. I think looks cool. It looks really cool. It's like these are still these kind of like pseudo mythological creatures.
Yeah.
So they're not. It doesn't deal with them as well as the first one does at all, but it deals with them better than the second one. It's like they're not just animals either. There is something more to them. I think that works. Like,
I think this movie only falls over in a few places. Like, it falls pretty hard, but I think... All right, so the kid surviving on his own. Like, it feels kind of Mad Max, he's running around collecting T-Rex pee and grenades. Like, it's so unbelievable to me when everything else is supposedly fairly grounded.
Spielberg needs to have kids in these films, like all of his films.
But this isn't Spielberg though. So this is
true,
notable part. This is Joe Johnston, favorite of the pod.
Yeah, who's actually a pretty good director, right? Like,
I'm a fan.
Yeah, and then I think that the other part where it falls over is the new big bad. I can't remember what it is. It's an Allosaurus or something.
Yeah, bad choice.
Doesn't work great, and then giving it the mobile phone in its belly to like give me a cup of water. That's such a better way to know that this big dinosaur's coming. Get out of here with your phone. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Like this movie definitely feels more silly. Like that, the phone in the belly is like a sort of a pretty gimmicky.
Yeah.
William H Macy's like really good as just like the bumbling kind of the bumbling father with the heart of gold.
Yeah, I enjoy the reveal of like, oh,
he's not
my corporation is a bathroom supply store. Yeah.
It brings a lot of pathos to it, and like, but it's also a bit more silly, right? It's like he's bumbled into this situation, and it's like he's always he's a bit useless. Yeah. So that there was one other part I was trying to think of that feels ridiculous.
So to me, it's the raptor scene at the end where they blow the carved flute, and they leave him alone.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the whole raptors talking where they're like, they basically having conversations to each other.
He plays an ocarina, and they leave him alone.
It feels so like, look how smart they are. They're having a conversation.
Yeah, like let's show them.
Get that.
That's a very Jurassic World plotline. Get that out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more silliness to it, but I know I don't hate that on its own. Right? Like I think that's okay to have a goofier, sort of more fun Jurassic Park, especially after number 2, where it's trying to still remain self-serious and it's just lost it.
Yeah,
I was happy with that change. Because you're right, for the most part, the rest of the movie works surprisingly well. Like there's a clearer sort of quest and purpose here.
Yeah. The island has a real sense of place that number 2 definitely didn't. Like number 1 is really good in that way. Like they're along this track and they revisit landmarks. Here's the big gates. Yeah. Here's the visitor center. Like you've really, I don't know. I always feel like I know where I am on the island when they're touring around. And this movie kind of has a bit of a sense of place as well. Like you can feel them moving their way through the island. Number 2, I don't feel like has that at all. Like,
yeah, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
Coke Zero version of the first one. Like it's just it's just not the same. But
yeah.
That's the thing. Two things. Like because obviously the second one has the opening shot of like the kid interacting with the little dinosaurs and then pecking her alive or whatever.
Yeah.
And this third one starts with them parasailing and getting, the boat getting destroyed, and it's like, oh my god, what's this water one? But the wife is annoying as hell.
Taylor, she's
not great.
I just don't like. It's like the screaming and just like it's that Temple of Doom aspect of like the woman just always yelling and screaming and running away and acting.
Megaphone.
Like it's
the megaphone part.
Yeah.
You're right.
That was when I was like, okay, nah, I'm not about this movie, but But I feel like I got over that towards the end, but there was just a few scenes where it was just like, oh my god, like I'm sick of this already.
Yeah, it feels kind of necessary to like for her to bounce off William H Macy, like her. He's just kind of so like he's so sort of pitiful. He's like, I had this crappy business and I've lost my kid and I lied and I'm like I'm going to get us all killed, and she's just sort of angrier and kind of doesn't care either, but it's also a bit useless. It's like they're a good kind of like you can see why they were together, but also why they split up. And it's not like it's not a great writing on their behalf. Like I don't think they do. She doesn't really have much to work with. This really is like Sam Neill. It's Sam Neill, H Macy, and his offside of Billy.
Yeah,
they're kind of the 3 central parts here, and she's really just sort of along for the plot, which is a criticism of the writing more than anything. But
I like Sam Neill being a mentor to.
Me too.
Yeah.
Trying to be.
Yeah. What do you think of the mercenaries? I don't mind their hubris at the start, where like we're going to set up a perimeter, and then we can do all this, and then like straight away it just all turns to shit. And they're like, take off, leave him behind. He's a professional.
Yeah.
But then they don't really do much else. They're just fodder from there, essentially.
Yeah, they really are, aren't they? Yeah, because they die super quick.
None of them survive.
No,
that's good. That's what you need in a Jurassic Park movie.
But yeah, you need a body count.
Yeah,
I think they're all of these movies, especially probably the third one, I think would benefit a lot. Actually, no, number 2 as well. They both benefit, I think, from not having the same dynamic of like we're normal people stuck on this island. We've got to escape. I think number 2 or 3 should at least have like the mercenaries as the main characters. And you could have something. I don't want to be I don't want to go down the path of like let's rewrite this movie how I would like it. That's not good criticism. But the mercenaries are always a cool idea of like they're here looking to profit off these creatures, and but they learn they're more than just animals. They can learn these wonderful things, and they're heart of gold. Whatever. I don't know.
They learn to love.
They learn to love, or they're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't try to hunt these, or maybe we shouldn't try to tame these. Just let them be. Like that's that seems like a really natural way to tell the story, but they always have the same. They always go back to the same plot of here's 3 people trying to get off the island.
Yeah.
And in both of them, I was like, I wish they had just done a bit differently. But like, let's have people trying to get on the island. Like, let's do a Heart of Darkness. Let's do War of the Planet of the Apes, but with dinosaurs.
Learn to speak at the end.
And and then they learn to speak, and then we learn to love.
Yep.
Dope.
I like the ending of this movie too, where Laura Dern just calls in everyone to go and save them. Like, I don't know, that feels like a really natural response to finding out someone's stuck on the dinosaur island.
Yeah, it does. My question
I don't know how she has all those connections to get the whole army out there, but
my question is, William H Macy explains that not the Senate, what is it? The foreign group in a different country.
The U.S. Embassy?
Yeah, the embassy. Yeah, he explains the embassy won't do a single thing. They're just like, your son's dead. But apparently Laura Dern, retired paleontologist, is just like, I can get everybody.
Leave Iraq and go.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little unbelievable. Where would you even start? Who would you call if you had to get the military out somewhere to save someone? Like, I don't even know where you would start with that.
Yeah, like, do you go to your local police? Like, can you transfer me, please, to the military?
Do you get onto your local member? I don't know.
That's a great...
the president.
There's a hotline. You will be waiting 16 days to talk to him. Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. Yeah. I mean, it's just a natural way to end it, though. It's like, how are they really going to get out of here? Don't worry, the army turns up. It's a reliable trope. I guess after they all got off the first one, because all these movies talk about how they're like, they're known celebrities after getting off Jurassic Park. So maybe that's it. Maybe she had like some contacts through there that are like, powerful people in politics.
Celebrities can get.
She probably had who was the president? She probably had George Bush's number after they, he was a bit of a flirt.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah. What do you think with them going the different direction and going away from Sam Neill and Laura Dern's relationship? Like, obviously they tease that, they've had kids at the start, and then it's like, oh wait, no, he's not the dad. She's happily married, and he's this roguish guy on his own.
I'm happy with it because Sam Neill is much older. Like, so Laura Dern was born in 1967. He was born in 1947. So he's like 20 years a senior.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it feels like a natural evolution of their relationship as well. And it puts him in a good stead to be, chasing after a kid again, right? Like,
yeah,
it is going back to the well a bit, but
there is because that's teasing the first one, isn't it? Like the whole he doesn't.
The first
want
one's
kids.
Like he doesn't want kids, but she's like,
are they together in the first one? Not really.
I thought so.
Yeah,
it is a little ambiguous because
she's very much like, we should be having kids. I feel like
Ian Malcolm's like flirting with her, and she's kind of into it.
And because
he also ask him like, is she?
He asks him, and he's like,
yes?
yeah, she is taken, but I'm never convinced.
Yeah,
never convinced of their relationship.
Maybe, he just doesn't want Malcolm getting her. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's good, like, because that was one little thing in the first one. You're like, it's that classic trope of like middle-aged directors who are like, there's no one more attractive to women than a middle-aged man. Yeah. And Laura Dern was like a very attractive, real. What was she at the time? 67. So what's that? She was in her mid-20s. Like, she was young. And so Sam Neill was in his mid-40s at the time. It's like, this is a bit of
Sam Neill, dude.
I know he's
Pierce Brosnan light.
He's a silver fox to be sure, but Laura Dern is Laura Dern. Like, she's one of the beautiful actresses we've had. So I think I like that natural. I like that way of being like they aren't together. She has a happy life with a kid, and there's kind of a sadness to Sam Neill,
Yeah.
where he's like, he clearly likes that kid, and he's like, oh, I don't have anything.
Dinosaur man.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
could
Yeah.
have chosen this, but I didn't. Yeah.
But I chose freaking dinosaur.
And Billy and the Clonosaurus.
What did you think of his whole his little thing?
Stealing the
whole-
raptor eggs.
Yeah, stealing the eggs and
It feels a little stupid. Like it feels like a dumb move, a real dumb move. But I mean, he's young and brash, and I don't know.
For someone
The
who's
resolution
like,
of that is worse, but like the
being
playing
taught by
of the
Sam Neill.
ocarina.
You'd think he wouldn't take.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd know that that's bad news. But yeah.
I mean, I guess it's kind of nice that it's him screwing up and not the parents again, because they do plenty of stuffing up on as it is.
that's true.
Yeah.
I like how already. Oh, you go.
I was just say, would it have been? Obviously, we go the happy ending, and the military arrive and save the day, and he's like, "Okay, we're all good." Would it have been just a cool dark ending for them to realize they're just trapped there forever? Like, there's no way off.
Extremely dark.
There's no way to communicate, and they're just on this island with these dinosaurs forever.
All right. Then 20 years later, Jurassic World.
Comes out.
Chris Pratt goes there, and Sam Neill is like this ripped
He's
old,
like the
savage.
Jumanji. He's just
Yeah.
going all caveman.
He's gone tribal, and he's like, I ate William H.
And
Macy.
he's tamed the raptors. He tamed the raptors with the ocarina.
Yeah.
Like, what happened to the other characters? I ate them all.
Yeah, he's like, I can't eat dinosaur flesh, but I can eat man flesh. That's a good idea.
He rides a T-Rex. Here we go. This is why we're not directors.
That's the spin-off we should have had. We got ripped off.
I could see one of the parents dying as a nice dark ending.
Yeah,
like, it's probably a little played out.
Macy should have died, probably.
Yeah, potentially. Especially since they started to resolve their problems too. Like it almost feels like one of them shouldn't have made it.
That's the thing. It is a pretty syrupy ending. Like they get back together, the kid survives. It's
Yeah.
Like nobody cares about Jeff or whatever his name is that took the kid with him. Like the guy who was looking after the kid.
Even his wife, man, was over it in like that. She was just upset that the kid might have been doomed. She was like, no.
They even find his body and they're like, oh, it's a dead body, not it's Jeff. I miss him so much.
I don't even get what happened with that. Like he's got the camera, he gives it to the dude, and then he just never gets out of that parachute.
Yeah.
Something happened, man. I want to know what that kid did.
The kid killed him and ate him.
It's like, you're not my real dad. Have fun.
This is how I'll get my parents back together.
He convinced he convinced him to go there. He's like, let's go to this cool park. There's lots of stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at this bloody kids. Yeah, this movie's a lot better than number 2.
I'm glad I'm not the only one in that boat because
really
I can't believe the reviews are so not that way. I don't know. Look, it's not a strong movie by any means, but I feel like this is a passable sequel. Like if this had been number 2 and there was a different number 3 potentially, like I could just go forever without Lost World.
Number 3, Adam Driver goes back in time to Jurassic Park to kill the dinosaurs.
Good.
That's how.
So we need to watch 65 now to see if there's any Jurassic Park references.
It might be a Jurassic Park sequel. We don't know.
Jurassic Park references.
Probably.
In that.
It is worth noting Roger Ebert gave number 3 the same score as number 1. Not as awe-inspiring as the first or as elaborate as the second, but in its own B-movie way, it's a nice little thrill machine.
Elaborate.
That guy is just a good way to sum up movies. So, yeah, this feels like a B-movie, but that's what it should be.
He's almost like one of the most respected
it's like
of all time or something.
Who would have thought Roger Ebert was good at his job?
He knew what he was talking about.
Highly recommend. Check him out. Check out his stuff.
His newest stuff is interesting. All right. Obvious order is 1, 3, 2. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that.
1, 3, 2.
Hot take. Number 1's the worst. Yeah, no, definitely.
Oof. Anything else we want to add about Jurassic Park?
Did either of you guys see this when it came out, the third one? When it at the movies? Because I remember when it came out, I have vague memories of it happening and, sort of it existing. I was always too young. I just didn't care, so I didn't see it. But no. Okay.
I was over my dinosaur phase by then.
I was into girls.
I was into video games. When all my problems started.
We need to have a Turok movie.
Every time I think about dinosaurs in 65, I was like, this is just Turok.
Yeah.
Why don't we have
pretty much,
Turok?
isn't it?
Yeah.
We do need a Turok movie. That seems like an untapped well.
Is Turok good though? Why isn't there any more Turok
Probably
games?
not.
Like the games have got their own separate problems. It's a great concept. Like,
Hmm.
although the same, it's kind of that because it's an old comic, right? Maybe it's one of those. It's like the John Carter problem. It's a bit too. Maybe it's too ridiculous for people. I don't know.
All right, that's Jurassic Park. We're not doing Jurassic World ever. We might do it one day, but next week, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
We've done the other 4 movies. We've got to do the 5th one.
Yeah.
We'll see. This may not be the last movie. I don't know.
Surely.
It's the last Harrison Ford movie, is my understanding. It last Harrison Ford movie? Or last Harrison Ford Indiana Jones movie? Indie movie?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Harrison Ford he'll be acting until he dies, I think.
Yeah, I like the theory that he's not allowed to fly his plane anymore. Callisto won't let him, so
yeah.
he's got to act. He's got to act. What else can he do with his time? You should watch Drinking. Anyway, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Looking forward to it. Join us next fortnight for that. If you enjoyed this podcast, you might enjoy this book by Conan Clark, The Taste of Iron.
They're not similar at all.
They're not similar at all, but The Taste of Iron is very good. Well thought out book. Sequels coming that aren't rushed just to make the movies. The movies are going to come at the end.
He's got dinosaurs. It's definitely got dinosaurs.
Thank you for joining us for the good, the bad, and the worst. Rate us on iTunes and Spotify and tell your parents about us so they listen too. Thanks.
Yeah. Please do.
See ya.